But first tonight at 11, a grandmother is now mourning the loss of both her daughter and her granddaughter. DeKalb County Police say the two were murdered after initially investigating the shooting as a murder-suicide.
I pray to God that no one really has to experience this.
Arielle Jackson and her family want to find peace after an act of violence took their loved ones.
We've been praying together and just depending on God for our strength and just holding on to the love that we shared with them both.
She remembers her daughter, Connie Jackson, for her big heart.
She loved everybody. She just had a soft spot for people in general.
And her granddaughter, 11-year-old Arielle Davis, for her big smile.
I made a song for her, Irie Pyrie, you better not be sorry. And she would just bust out laughing, and her smile was just so radiant and infectious.
Jackson says her daughter and granddaughter loved going out to eat together. Arielle enjoyed playing games and making TikTok videos. On Friday, DeKalb County Police responded to a shooting at their Stone Mountain home. Police charged 41-year-old Roland Succo with their murders. Jackson says Succo mentally and emotionally abused her daughter during their roughly 2-year relationship.
Every single one of us carries the anger because this man just sat at our Thanksgiving table with us.
Jackson says despite the pain her daughter was in, she was hopeful better days were ahead, with Connie having plans to move out in a few days.
I actually spoke with my daughter like minutes before her demise. The first thing she said to me when she answered the phone, she said, "Mom, I packed all my stuff, Mom. I'm ready to go, Mom. I'm tired, Mom. I'm done."
Jackson says their phones died, and when she tried calling back her daughter, she never picked up.
It's December 13th, 2025, just after midnight in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Inside a quiet home, a mother named Connie Jackson had just finished packing her bags. Hours earlier, she'd been on the phone with her own mother, saying the words that would haunt the family forever. "Ma, I packed all my stuff, Ma. I'm ready to go, Ma. I'm tired, Ma. I'm done." The phone died. When her mother tried calling back, Connie never picked up. By sunrise, both Connie and her 11-year-old daughter Arielle were dead, shot inside their own home. The man police say pulled the trigger? Roland Succo, the father of Connie's 6-month-old baby boy, who was in the house that night, but somehow survived. If you're already feeling the weight of this story and you want to see more cases like this brought to light, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Crime Lab Report and smash that bell icon. These stories need voices, and missing out means cases like Connie stay buried longer than they should. Let's make sure her story is heard. Connie Jackson wasn't supposed to die at 41 years old. She wasn't supposed to be another statistic in the long, brutal list of domestic violence victims. Her mother, Arielle Jackson, described her daughter as someone with a big heart, someone who loved everybody, someone who could make just about anybody laugh. Connie didn't have a hateful bone in her body. Even when people were bad for her, she could still see the good in them. That kindness, that refusal to give up on people, might be exactly what kept her trapped for so long. Connie had 2 children. Arielle Davis, her 11-year-old daughter from a previous relationship, was a bright kid who loved making TikTok videos and playing games. Her grandmother called her Ari Perry, a nickname that made Arielle burst out laughing every time. She had a smile so radiant and infectious it could light up a room. Connie and Arielle were close. They loved going out to eat together. Just the two of them, sharing moments that now feel impossibly precious. Then there was Tristan, Connie's 6-month-old son. His father was Roland Succo, a 41-year-old man Connie had been with for roughly 2 years. By all accounts, those 2 years were hell. Family members say Succo mentally and emotionally abused Connie throughout their relationship. There were no reports of physical violence, at least none that Connie ever voiced, but the verbal torment and emotional control were relentless. Connie thought about leaving many times. She'd talked to her mother about it, express her exhaustion, her frustration, her pain, but she stayed. Why? Because she didn't want to break up her family. She just had a baby with this man 6 months earlier, and despite everything, she held on to hope that things might get better. They didn't, and by December, Connie had finally reached her breaking point. She was done hoping. She was done trying. She packed her things and told her mother she was leaving in just a few days. But Roland Suku, it seems, had other plans. Stone Mountain sits just outside Atlanta, a working-class community where people know their neighbors and families try to build quiet lives away from the chaos of the city. Connie had been living in this neighborhood with Roland and the kids, trying to make it work despite the tension that filled their home daily. Her mother, Arielle, lived close enough to stay connected, close enough to hear the pain in her daughter's voice when things got bad. And things had been bad for a long time. Think about this for a second. Connie had just sat at Thanksgiving dinner with her family less than a month before she died. Roland was right there at the table with them, passing plates, probably smiling, acting like everything was normal. Arielle would later express her anger about that exact moment, saying this man had just shared their holiday meal like he was part of family. Nobody at that table could have imagined what was coming. How do you process that? How do you sit across from someone, share a meal, and not see the violence brewing underneath? But Connie saw it. She felt it every day. The emotional abuse had worn her down to the point where she knew she couldn't stay anymore. She'd been planning her exit quietly, carefully, knowing that leaving an abusive relationship is often the most dangerous time for a victim. Statistics back this up. You probably heard before, but it's worth repeating. Women are at the highest risk of being killed by their partner when they try to leave. Connie knew the stakes, and she was still brave enough to pack those bags. December 12th started like any other day, but by evening, Connie was on the phone with her mother. We don't know exactly what triggered the conversation, but Connie's words were clear and final. She told Arielle she'd packed everything. She was ready to go. She was tired. She was done. Can you imagine the relief her mother must have felt hearing that? Finally, her daughter was getting out. Finally, Connie was choosing herself and her kids over a man who'd been tearing her down for 2 years. Arielle was probably already planning how she'd help, where Connie and the kids would stay, how they'd rebuild. But then the phone died, just like that, mid-conversation. Arielle tried calling back immediately. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. Now, put yourself in her shoes for a moment. Your daughter just told you she's leaving an abusive relationship. The call drops, and she's not picking up. What would you be thinking? Would you assume she's just charging her phone? Or would that knot of worry start tightening in your stomach? Arielle didn't know it yet, but those were the last words she'd ever hear from her daughter. Within hours, Connie and Arielle would both be shot dead inside their home. Little Tristan, just 6 months old, was in the house but somehow left unharmed. Roland Suku was also there, and according to police, he was seriously injured in the incident. What exactly happened in those hours after the phone call dropped? Let's piece it together. Early Friday morning, December 13th, 2025, police were called to the Stone Mountain home. When they arrived, they found a scene no officer ever wants to witness. Connie Jackson and her 11-year-old daughter Arielle were both dead from gunshot wounds. The baby, Tristan, was alive and uninjured. Roland Suku was also at the scene, seriously injured and requiring immediate medical attention. DeKalb County Police didn't waste time. They charged Suku with 2 counts of malice murder while he was still in the hospital, recovering from his injuries. Now here's where you have to stop and think about the psychology of what happened. Connie had literally just told her mother she was leaving. Her bags were packed. She had a plan. She was days away from freedom. Did Roland overhear that phone call? Did he sense what was coming? Or had Connie already told him she was done, and he'd been waiting for the right moment to make sure she never left? We may never know the exact sequence of events that led to the shooting, but what we do know is that this wasn't a random act of violence. This was calculated. This was about control. When abusers realize they're losing control, they sometimes choose to destroy what they can't keep. Think about Arielle for a second. She was 11 years old. She wasn't even Roland's biological daughter. She was just a kid caught in the crossfire of an adult relationship that had turned toxic. What was going through her mind that night? Did she try to protect her mother? Did she even understand what was happening before it was too late? Her grandmother remembers that radiant smile, those TikTok videos. A child who should have had decades of life ahead of her. Instead, She became another victim of domestic violence, a statistic that didn't even involve her own relationship. Roland Suku is currently awaiting trial from his hospital bed before being transferred to DeKalb County Jail. He faces 2 counts of malice murder, charges that could put him away for life if convicted. The investigation is still ongoing, so more details will likely emerge as the case moves through the court system. Arielle Jackson is now raising baby Tristan, the only survivor from that house. She's trying to process the loss of both her daughter and granddaughter while caring for an infant who will grow up knowing his father is accused of killing his mother and half-sister. The family has been raising money to cover burial costs for Connie and Arielle and to help support Tristan's future. The community has rallied around them, but no amount of support can fill the hole left by this tragedy. This case reminds us that domestic violence doesn't always announce itself with bruises. Sometimes it hides behind closed doors as emotional abuse, verbal attacks, and psychological control until one day it explodes into irreversible violence. So here's what I want you to think about. What makes someone believe they have the right to take another person's life simply because that person chose to walk away? How do we as a society create safer exit strategies for people trapped in abusive relationships? And if you were Connie's friend or family member, what signs would you have looked for that might have changed this outcome? If the story affected you, share this video. Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe to Crime Lab Report if you haven't already, because these stories need to be told, and these victims deserve to be remembered. Check out our other videos covering cases that demand justice, and let's keep this conversation going. Connie and Arielle's voices were silenced, but ours don't have to be.